"You four idiots, thanks for the gifts." When he turned around and faced the attacks of the leaders of the four largest forces head-on, and most of the people thought that he would definitely be a dead man, Duan Ling Tian spoke. His voice was indifferent and did not contain any emotions. "Gifts." The leaders were stunned. Before they even reacted, they then saw 9-sword chi shoot out of the purple figure who faced their assault boldly. They knew in their hearts that those were the 9 spirit swords which were hovering around the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian. However, they did not care. That's futile effort. Not only did they not care, they even looked down upon the attack Duan Ling Tian launched from the bottom of their hearts. From the speed of the 9-sword chi, they could roughly estimate the strength it contained. The 9-sword chi might be able to stop any one of their attacks, but it was impossible for it to stop all 4 of their attacks simultaneously. Duan Ling Tian immediately exerted the 9-tribulation sword control technique. The 9-tribulation sword control technique had a unique characteristic whereby it needed some buffering time for the speed of the swords to be increased to its ultimate when it was controlled by spiritual energy. That was the reason why the leaders of the 4 largest forces looked down upon the 9-tribulation sword control technique that he used. Swish, swish, swish. 9-sword chi soared across the sky and strengthened moments later. It was like 9 copies of Duan Ling Tian striking all together. The strength was instantly increased to its maximum, as if the gods had aided him. How's that possible? At that time, the faces of the leaders of the 4 largest forces changed. The 9-sword chi suddenly quickened, and the acceleration rate jolted them. At once, they realized that the 4 of them could hardly block it. They never thought that the speed of the sword chi would increase, and so dramatically too. It was completely beyond their imaginations. Damn it, how could this Duan Ling Tian be so powerful? Didn't Wu Lai say that Duan Ling Tian was only a little bit stronger than the Zhou clan Grand Elder who had just broken through to the 9th level Martial Monarch stage? Is this more than a little bit stronger than the Zhou clan Grand Elder? We've been cheated by Wu Lai. At that moment, the 4 of them also saw the heaven and earth phenomenon which accompanied Duan Ling Tian. They could detect the strength of 4 ancient black dragons in addition to 9,000 ancient horned dragons. Just imagine that. The strength of 4 ancient black dragons in addition to 9,000 ancient horned dragons. Even their strongest quad member was weaker than Duan Ling Tian. Besides that, they were panic-stricken about the ingenious sword skills he currently exhibited. It was as if the gods aided him, and they did not think that they would be able to block it. Run. Simultaneously, the same thought appeared in their minds. However, they did not slow down their hand movements. The violent, stormy attacks headed straight for the 9 rapidly moving sword chi as if they had no fear. Naturally, it did not mean that they were not afraid of Duan Ling Tian. They just knew that it would inevitably backfire if they forcefully pulled back. That was not what they wanted to see, so they could only bite the bullet. They made a decision in tacit agreement. When their own attacks collided with Duan Ling Tian's, they had to immediately escape by drawing support from the recoil force even if it would hurt them. Although they might not be able to escape, they simply had to do so. If they did not run, they would be dead for sure. If they did, they might have a chance of surviving. Boom, 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 boom. Shortly after, there was a burst of loud noises when the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit sword controlled by Duan Ling Tian through the 9-tribulation sword control technique collided with the attacks from the leaders of the 4 largest forces. The storm-like attacks were instantly crushed and shattered as they collided with the 9-sword chi transformed by the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Poof, poof. All of the leaders were injured at the same time. They even spat out a mouthful of deep red blood, but they did not dare to stay any longer. They fled in all directions. However, would they be able to escape? As everyone, including the true martial sect's sect leader, Wu Lai, was shocked by the scene before them, the 9-sword chi surged after crushing the 4 storm-like attacks. In the next moment, everyone saw the 9 5-colored sword chi instantly transform into almost 100 5-colored divine dragons. More accurately, there were 81 divine dragons. Each sword chi was transformed into 9 divine dragons. 9 dragons' radiant flash. Then, Duan Ling Tian's eyes turned cold, and 162 extremely dazzling flashes instantly shot out from the eyes of 81 divine dragons. The speed of these eye-blinding flashes was so fast that even the 7th level and 8th level martial monarch stage martial artists who were present found it hard to trace. Swish, 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 swish. Simultaneously, sharp and short whistles were heard by everyone present. The sounds only lasted for seconds. After that, everyone suddenly noticed that the bodies of the 4 first-rate forces leaders who were escaping in different directions were frozen in midair. Bloody arrows kept spurting out from their bodies and blood splattered across the sky, as if flirtatious red roses were blooming one after another. Without any exception, the bodies of the leaders of the 4 largest forces were left with dozens of bloody wounds, and they were very much dead. At the same time, the purple figure standing proudly in the air in the distance vanished into thin air under everyone's watchful eyes. When he reappeared, he was back in front of the Ling Tian's sect members. In his hands, there were 5 spatial rings and a pile of profundity fragments which he stored into his spatial ring shortly after. At that moment, Duan Ling Tian's words echoed in the minds of everyone who was present. For idiots, thanks for the gifts. Now, they realized the gifts that Duan Ling Tian meant were the spatial rings and profundity fragments left behind by the leaders of the 4 largest forces after they had died. The scene was deadly silent. Everyone's gaze was on the same person. It was the person dressed in a purple robe who now seemed invincible in their eyes, as if he was the undefeated god of war. No, impossible, impossible. In the distance, the sect leader of the true martial sect, Wu Lai, was the first to recover from the shock. He shook his head as he looked at the purple-clad youth before him, as if he was reluctant to believe that what he had just seen was true. Wu Lai, didn't you say his strength was merely a bit stronger than the Zhou clan Grand Elders? Wu Lai, his strength was obviously way stronger than the Zhou clan Grand Elders. Why did you say it was merely a little stronger? You caused the death of my sect leader of the 1,000 Feet sect. Wu Lai, return the life of my sect leader. Simultaneously, apart from Wu Lai and the old man behind him, the 4 other people around him glared at him in anger. Their eyes were filled with icy coldness. At once, Wu Lai turned green. He had just heard that Duan Ling Tian could kill the Zhou clan Grand Elder who had just broken through to the 9th level martial monarch stage. He was not clear about Duan Ling Tian's actual power. However, according to his speculation in the past, Duan Ling Tian was not that strong. He should be merely a little stronger than the Zhou clan Grand Elder. The reason for that speculation was that if Duan Ling Tian were a lot stronger than the Zhou clan Grand Elder, he would not have conceded to the Ling Tian sect, which was renamed from the Yin Yang sect. Now, he knew he had been outrageously wrong. With Duan Ling Tian's power, he could compete with the top powerhouses of the upper middle-level first-rate forces in the central area of the Inner Land. Now, he could only curse in his heart. You're such a strong powerhouse. What were you doing dominating the outer ring of the Inner Land? Isn't that bullying? From then on, Wu Lai gave up on the idea of avenging his 2 sons because he knew he could not do it. Being killed by the other party was as simple as slaughtering a chicken or cutting grass. Boom. A loud bang resounded, and an old man not far away from Wu Lai briskly attacked him. The furious attack headed straight for Wu Lai. Humph! As he snorted, the old man, who was following behind Wu Lai like a shadow, helped him block the attacks before he could even react. What are you doing? Wu Lai's face changed dramatically as he stared angrily at the old man who attacked him. Since we're dying today, anyway, I want to kill you to comfort the sect leader's soul before I die. The old man shouted. Then he attacked Wu Lai once again, but the old man behind Wu Lai defended him again. They were fighting each other, and they were evenly matched. It was a close fight. The reason our sect encountered such a crisis today is all Wu Lai's fault. Let's kill him. Soon, the people from the 3 other first-rate forces also charged towards Wu Lai angrily. In their opinion, if it were not for Wu Lai who had personally gone to their sect and persuaded them to come, they would not be there, and they would not have to face such a dire life and death situation. They thought they would benefit greatly from the trip to the Ling Tian sect. Who would have known that not only would they not benefit from it, but they might even lose their lives? They got angrier the more they thought about it. Eventually, they blamed all of this onto Wu Lai who had initiated it. Boom, 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 boom. A burst of explosions echoed in the air. The 3 powerhouses from the first-rate forces attacked Wu Lai at the same time. They did not show any mercy, and they grievously injured Wu Lai in a heartbeat. Any one of them could match Wu Lai. so it was effortless to kill him if the three of them worked together. In the blink of an eye, Wu Lai had his life snuffed out. From the beginning to the end, Duan Ling Tian just stood aside and watched. From the mouth of the person before him, Duan Ling Tian learned that everything that had happened today was due to Wu Lai, the sect leader of the true martial sect. It was Wu Lai who had gathered these powerhouses from the first-rate forces to come to the Ling Tian sect to destroy it. It was not hard to guess why. Wu Lai knew he could not avenge his two sons by himself, so he had dragged the other first-rate forces down with him. Wu Lai was actually quite smart. He knew how to seize an opportunity. Duan Ling Tian seemed to remember something and thought to himself secretly. Wu Lai would not have been able to convince several first-rate forces to join forces against the Ling Tian sect if Duan Ling Tian had not persuaded several grade 1 weapon craftsmen and alchemists to join the Ling Tian sect. Duan Ling Tian was very clear on that. Now that Wu Lai was dead, he collected Wu Lai's spatial ring and profundity fragment from his corpse. Then, Duan Ling Tian's silhouette flashed and vanished into thin air after collecting the spatial ring and profundity fragment. Zoom, zoom, zoom. In just a matter of seconds, several short-lived cries filled the air. The next thing the Ling Tian sect elders and disciples noticed was that the other 5 people apart from the sect leader of the true martial sect, Wu Lai, who was already dead, had been killed. At the same time, the purple silhouette reappeared and entered their line of sight. It took them a while to recover from their shock. Their sect leader was outrageously powerful. Not a bad haul, Duan Ling Tian murmured while looking at the pile of spatial rings and profundity fragments in his hand. Sect leader is incredibly powerful. At that time, the elders and disciples of the Ling Tian sect came to their senses and gawked at Duan Ling Tian with awe and respect. Although they already knew that their current sect leader was mighty, they had the misconception that Duan Ling Tian was just slightly stronger than the original peak master of Yang Peak, Yang Hong. The incident today totally changed their opinion of their sect leader. Unbelievable. Their current sect leader had just killed 4 9th-level martial monarch stage powerhouses even after they joined hand. Any of the 4 9th-level martial monarch stage powerhouses could have easily killed Yang Hong, the original peak master of Yang Peak from the Yin Yang sect. Instead, all 4 of them were killed by Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect, in the blink of an eye. Many people were whispering among themselves, "As long as our sect leader is around, the Ling Tian sect will be able to hold our ground among the mid-level first-rate forces." There were many first-rate forces in the inner land of the Cloud Continent. However, their strength vastly differed from one another. For example, the former Yin Yang sect along with the true martial sect and the Zhou clan were considered the lower-level first-rate forces in the inner land. They belonged at the bottom of the rankings. The 4 people that Duan Ling Tian had just killed were the leaders of 4 lower mid-level first-rate forces. They were far superior in strength when compared to the lower-level first-rate forces. I agree. I believe that with our sect leader's strength, he can even take on the top powerhouses of mid-level first-rate forces. Another person added. Many people quickly agreed with him. Our sect leader single-handedly killed the leaders of the 6 largest first-rate forces and the 8th-level martial monarch stage powerhouses that they brought along with them. My heart is still pounding just thinking about that scene. Many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples discussed the recent battle excitedly. At that moment, they were proud of their identity as the elders and disciples of the Ling Tian sect. "Master, you've improved rapidly." The gold thug smiled wryly at Duan Ling Tian. He recalled his battle against Duan Ling Tian the first time they met. Although Duan Ling Tian won, the victory was only by a small margin. However, the current Duan Ling Tian had surpassed him by leaps and bounds. "Young master," Xiong Quan's eyes glimmered, and he seemed very excited after witnessing Duan Ling Tian's power. Feng Tianwu stood aside with a poker face. However, when her gaze fell on Duan Ling Tian, it turned warm and tender. "Outrageous. That's abnormal," Zhang Sen murmured while sizing Duan Ling Tian up as if it was their first time meeting. He could never have guessed that the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect was not only an outrageously talented weapons craftsman and alchemist, but he was also a superb martial artist. Rumor has it that sect leader is also an inscription master. Zhang Sen became speechless after that. He felt that all his years of his life had been wasted. The group of Grade 1 weapons craftsmen and Grade 1 alchemists were just as bewildered as Zhang Sen was. They had joined the Ling Tian sect after Zhang Sen did. Back then, All of them were filled with pride and arrogance. But after witnessing Duan Ling Tian's weapons crafting and medicine refining technique, they were all humbled. They discovered that their weapons crafting and medicine refining technique was nothing compared to Duan Ling Tian. They heard rumors that the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect was extremely powerful since he was able to kill Peak Master Yang Hong of Yang Peak from the Yin Yang sect in just an instant. Still, most of them did not precisely fathom how powerful Duan Ling Tian was. Today, through his strength, their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian, had etched that impression into their hearts and minds. They were astounded after seeing how powerful he was. A group of Grade 1 weapons craftsmen and Grade 1 alchemists whispered among themselves and lamented, "Our sect leader must be the favorite child of the heavens." Apart from being accomplished in the weapons refinement Dao, medicine refinement Dao, and inscription Dao, he also has such immense strength in martial Dao. The strength of 4 ancient black dragons in addition to 9,000 ancient horned dragons. He can do as he pleases in the outer rim of the inner land with such power. Duan Ling Tian kept his cool when he faced all their looks of respect and awe. Time to disperse. Duan Ling Tian vanished into thin air in front of the disciples and elders of the Ling Tian sect as soon as he finished his sentence. Only the rare few who were above the 7th level martial monarch stage powerhouse saw his silhouette leaving. The scene became even livelier after Duan Ling Tian left. After today's incident, the Ling Tian sect's name will once again be known in the outer southern area of the inner land. No one doubted that. That news indeed spread very quickly thanks to the Ling Tian sect disciples. Many people were stunned when they heard it. The Ling Tian sect became famous yet again. The sect, which was renamed from the Yin Yang sect, had its name revered near and far. Among them, as the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian was even better known. He was viewed as the Prince Charming by many female martial artists and was idolized by many of the younger generations. Suddenly, everyone in the outer southern area of the inner land from 3 years old to 100 years old knew of Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian became a renowned person, and the Ling Tian sect's buzz outshone all the other first-rate forces in the region. Naturally, it was also due to the fact that the outer southern area of the inner land only had low and mid-level first-rate forces. The higher-level first-rate forces were located in the inner areas and the core regions of the inner land. At the Ling Tian sect on Ling Tian Peak, boom, 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 waves of loud noises rumbled like exploding mines were heard resonating from the summit of Ling Tian Peak. Currently, 2 silhouettes were battling it out at the summit of Ling Tian Peak. One of them was purple, and the other was bronze. Both the silhouettes were extremely fast, and they were deep in the battle in a blink of the eye. Flash! Suddenly, the purple silhouette drew his sword. At the same time, in the void above him, the heaven and earth phenomenon made an earth-shattering change and transformed into the silhouettes of 4 ancient black dragons and 9,000 ancient horned dragons. Boom, boom, boom. However, the bronze silhouette was unfazed even when he faced his sword-wielding opponent. He swung his pair of hammer-like fists and seemingly shattered the space around them. 9 Dragon Sword Control Technique. 9 Dragon Radiant Flash. The 9 swords surrounding the purple silhouette instantly shot towards the bronze silhouette as fast as lightning, while the purple silhouette zoomed backward. The 9-sword chi raced across the void and transformed into 81 5-colored divine dragons. The 81 divine dragons shot out an extremely radiant glow from their eyes as soon as they appeared. Zoom, 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 zoom. A total of 162 extremely bright streaks raced towards the bronze silhouette with the intention to puncture 162 holes on his body. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, a layer of red energy appeared on the surface of the bronze silhouette's body like it was a burning flame. The bronze silhouette soared towards the incoming 162 blinding streaks with his hammer-like fists. In the void above him, a significant change occurred in the heaven and earth phenomenon. The outline of 5 ancient black dragons and 1,000 ancient horned dragons rumbled towards the purple silhouette with great momentum along with his fists, as though they were storm clouds. Clang, 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 clang. The bronze silhouette flexed both its fists, and 4-colored energy spurred out from both fists to form a defensive barrier in front of him. The barrier managed to block the incoming 162 streaks of light. Even though he managed to block the 162 incoming bright flashes, he was forced a few steps back as a result of its aftershock. The defensive strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 1,000 ancient horned dragons was barely more powerful than the offensive force of 4 ancient black dragons and 9,000 ancient horned dragons. The purple silhouette stopped at that moment and put the sword in his hands away. The 3-meter-tall bronze silhouette also stood there motionless after the purple silhouette stored his sword. The pulsating 4-colored energy around his body was slowly dissipating. If anyone else had been there, he or she would definitely be shocked because the bronze silhouette was not human. It was a refined bronze puppet. From the detailed and exquisite features on the puppet, one could discern the effort and dedication of its maker. At that moment, the purple silhouette neared the puppet and exclaimed, "The fully exerted strength of 5 ancient black dragons in addition to 1,000 ancient horned dragons. It can't be improved any further for the time being." The owner of the purple figure was none other than Duan Ling Tian. More than a month had gone by since those 6 great forces had come to the Ling Tian sect. In this 1 month or so, Duan Ling Tian had successfully created the remaining puppets. Not only that, but he also managed to group the puppets together and completely merge the origin energy that extended out of their origin stones in their bodies with the help of the inscription formation he extracted from the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. Because the origin stones inside the group of puppets were all of the supreme grade, the origin energy released by the origin stones from inside the combined puppet, which was made from this group of puppets, could mimic a 7th-level martial monarch stage martial artist. Once it was unleashed, it would be equivalent to the strength of 1 ancient black dragon. And this is because I've taken out all the supreme grade origin stones that I possibly could. Otherwise, the origin energy extending out of the puppets wouldn't be this potent. When Duan Ling Tian was creating the group of miniature puppets, not only did he use up all of the stock of the supreme grade origin stones in the Ling Tian sect, but he also used up all of the supreme grade origin stones in the spatial rings left behind by the 12 powerhouses from the 6 great forces. There were no longer any supreme grade origin stones in his hand. How lucky for you. It's fortunate that you didn't let me down. Standing in front of the copper puppet, Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself. However, if I want to raise your strength even more, I need to get my hands on more supreme grade origin stones. Or perhaps I should wait for my spiritual energy to make further progress. The reason he said so was that his spiritual energy right now could only embed 4 pieces of profundity fragments into the puppet. He could not put the 5th piece in at all. Therefore, the strength that the copper puppet demonstrated now was limited. Right now, the copper puppet standing in front of Duan Ling Tian had a strength equivalent to a 7th-level martial monarch when all of its energy was fully unleashed. It was equivalent to the strength of an ancient black dragon. On top of that, when they were grouped together, Duan Ling Tian made the few small puppets that would form fists to become a grade 1 spirit sword. When it made its attack, both of its fists would have the strength of over 9,000 ancient horned dragons. Among the 4 pieces of profundity fragments, the strongest one was the 8th-level profundity fragment. When they were all added up together, the strength demonstrated would be equivalent to 3 ancient black dragons plus an additional 2,000 ancient horned dragons. For this reason, when all of its strength was released, it would be equivalent to the strength of 5 ancient black dragons plus 1,000 over ancient horned dragons. This would be 2,000 ancient horned dragons stronger than when Duan Ling Tian unleashed all of his power. However, the biggest flaw in it was that it did not know any martial skills, and it could only use brute strength. For this reason, even though its strength was 2,000 ancient horned dragons stronger than that of Duan Ling Tian's, it was still forced to retreat after it blocked the sword attack that Duan Ling Tian cast. Of course, if they continued to fight, Duan Ling Tian would have no opportunity of winning at all. No matter how skillful his sword technique was, the strength gap of 2,000 ancient horned dragons was just too hard to overcome. Looking at the puppet in front of him, Duan Ling Tian murmured, "As long as my spiritual energy can be raised, I can then merge a 5th profundity fragment into its body. By that time, its strength would continue to be elevated. And if there was a great number of supreme grade origin stones, it could raise its strength all the same too." However, all in all, he was quite pleased with the strength that the puppet possessed. If it fully went all out, Even he would be no match to the puppet. As for the other people in the Ling Tian sect, well, was there even a need to talk about that? Duan Ling Tian. Suddenly, a familiar voice entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. In the next instance, he saw a figure charging up the peak like a lightning streak. He sliced through the sky like a sharp blade. The next moment, the person came to a halt not far away from Duan Ling Tian and revealed his true identity. It was none other than his old friend from last time, Chen Xiaoshui, who had come to the Ling Tian sect a while ago. Chen Xiaoshui was one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. To be exact, he was the Sword Young Master. As a glimmer flashed across Duan Ling Tian's eyes, he asked curiously, "When did you come out of your closed-door cultivation?" As far as he knew, after Chen Xiaoshui came to the Ling Tian sect, he had never left and swore never to leave the closed-door cultivation until he made a breakthrough as he began to start cultivating painstakingly. "I just came out today," Chen Xiaoshui replied. At the same time, he grumbled, "Duan Ling Tian, you really are stingy." Upon hearing Chen Xiaoshui's words, Duan Ling Tian immediately felt perplexed. With a confused face, he asked, "Stingy? What do you mean? I heard that you wiped out 12 powerhouses from 6 great first-rate forces last month, but you didn't order anybody to come and ask me to watch the fight. Isn't that stingy of you?" Chen Xiaoshui grumbled. And here I thought what was the matter in the first place. Duan Ling Tian was stunned first before he shook his head as he smiled. "That time, when I heard that somebody has come to our Ling Tian sect to kill, I was instantly consumed with flames of rage, and all that was in my mind was to avenge my Ling Tian sect disciples. Do you think I'd even have such spare thoughts during that time?" When Duan Ling Tian reached the end of his sentence, he rolled his eyes at Chen Xiaoshui in speechlessness. Of course, it was only in front of Chen Xiaoshui, his old friend of the past, that he was able to be so casual and return to his original self without the need to put on any fake airs at all. Upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, Chen Xiaoshui did not have any comeback for him at all. Very soon, he no longer hung on to this matter as his gaze shifted towards the copper puppet beside Duan Ling Tian. "Curious," he asked, "Duan Ling Tian, did you make this puppet?" "Yes." Duan Ling Tian nodded. "When did you make it? I don't remember seeing this big fella at all when I first came here." Chen Xiaoshui was surprised. "Just recently," Duan Ling Tian replied. Chen Xiaoshui nodded his head in realization before he asked again, "Why did you make this?" "This puppet can only have a strength that is equivalent to a void transformation stage martial artist at most. Not just that, but it doesn't obey orders and can't be controlled at all. It's pretty much useless." Chen Xiaoshui knew a little bit about puppets. Even if it were a puppet catalyzed by supreme-grade origin stones, it could only mimic a 7th-level void transformation stage martial artist, and it could not even withstand a blow from a martial monarch like him. Pretty much useless? Chen Xiaoshui's words made Duan Ling Tian chuckle before he asked with a smile, "Do you want to test its strength? You want me to test its strength? Are you serious?" Chen Xiaoshui looked at Duan Ling Tian like he was looking at a ghost. "I'll be able to destroy this useless puppet with just a casual attack, without the use of any spirit weapons." "Give it a try then." Duan Ling Tian's smile remained plastered on his face. "Are you sure you want me to try? If I really give it a go, don't blame me when I accidentally smashed it into a pile of rubbles, okay?" Chen Xiaoshui asked again. In the end, just like earlier, he still looked down upon the copper puppet by the side of Duan Ling Tian from the bottom of his heart with complete disdain and contempt. "If you can smash it into a pile of rubble, I'll give you a grade 1 spirit sword that can give a boost of 90% in strength," Duan Ling Tian offered. "Are you for real?" The moment Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, Chen Xiaoshui's eyes had already brightened up, staring fixedly at Duan Ling Tian. His breathing turned rapid as his chest rose and fell like a bellow, unable to calm down for a long time. Even though he did not know that Duan Ling Tian was a grade 1 weapons craftsman yet, he had already heard that he could contact a remarkable grade 1 master weapons craftsman. It was said that a grade 1 weapons craftsman could craft grade 1 spirit weapons that could give a 90% boost. When he just heard about this, he was immediately tempted. The spirit weapon in his hand was only a grade 2 spirit sword. If it could be upgraded to become a grade 1 spirit sword that could give off a boost of 90%, it would be like changing a fowling piece in a big gun, as he was able to raise his strength significantly. Right now, upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, he thought that the latter intended to give a grade 1 spirit sword to him. After all, in his mind, this puppet would not be able to withstand a blow in front of a martial artist at his level. When have I ever deceived you before? Duan Ling Tian scowled at Chen Xiao Shui before retreating and flying backward. From afar, he told Chen Xiao Shui, "Hi, make your move on Hammer first, lest you say that Hammer bullies you." Hammer. Upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, Chen Xiao Shui could not help but be stunned. Duan Ling Tian looked at the puppet that was 3 meters tall and said, "It's that puppet." Hammer was the name that he had christened this puppet. "It's only a puppet that would crumble on the first blow, and you actually gave it a name?" Chen Xiao Shui was a little flabbergasted. Once again, he looked at Duan Ling Tian to reconfirm. "Duan Ling Tian, are you sure that I can smash it into a pile of rubble? Come on, since when did you become so womanishly fussy? If you can really smash it into a pile of rubble, not only that, but I'll give you a grade 1 spirit sword that can give a strength boost of 90%. Furthermore, I'll give you 2 bottles of grade 1 life recovery pills that have a purity of 90% and above as well." Duan Ling Tian frowned and snapped, slightly irritated. "You said so yourself, okay?" The moment Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, Chen Xiao Shui could no longer resist the temptation anymore. With a flash of his body, he started to make his move. Swish! Within Duan Ling Tian's field of vision, Chen Xiao Shui's entire person seemed to have transformed into a sharp sword as he soared through the sky. His target was the copper puppet that was 3 meters tall and was also known as Hammer. Without any spirit weapon, when Duan Ling Tian saw Chen Xiao Shui raise his hand to solidify origin energy, profundity, and concept into a sword before charging out towards Hammer at a speed as fast as lightning, he could not help but be taken aback. He could not believe that Chen Xiao Shui was actually this haughty. Swish! The sword in Chen Xiao Shui's hand was wielded out freely and charged towards Hammer. In the next second, it already arrived just right in front of Hammer, at a speed of thunder and lightning. Duan Ling Tian gave an order to Hammer. Defense. At that moment, the origin energy from Hammer's body skyrocketed as 4 high-level profundities followed suit like shadows. In just a moment, it had already formed a 4-colored light shield around its body. Bam! Right at this moment, the sword in Chen Xiao Shui's hand had also landed on the light shield in time and clattered loudly. However, there was not even the slightest trace of ripple at all on the light shield at all. It still remained as steady as a mountain, like the thunderous sword attack from Chen Xiao Shui was nothing at all. Swish! With no result from his first blow, Chen Xiao Shui's face darkened right away. With a lift of his hand, a grade 2 spirit sword appeared, and he made his attack again. The shadow of the sword charged out with ease and pounded towards the light shield on Hammer. Bang! Another loud bang resonated, but the light shield still did not budge at all. This time, Chen Xiao Shui started to notice that something was wrong. Right now, it's time for Hammer to make his move instead. At the same time, a familiar voice resonated by Chen Xiao Shui's ears, causing horror to dawn on him right away. At that instant, all Chen Xiao Shui felt was the pressure from the hurricane that charged toward him. It was pressing on him so much that he could hardly breathe. Before he realized what was happening, the gigantic force pressed down on his body like a giant hammer on his chest and sent him flying backward. Barf! Like an arrow that was shot out of its bow, Chen Xiao Shui was sent flying in a wretched manner. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. What the hell is this monster? Chen Xiao Shui finally came to a halt. Instead of treating his injury first after he regained his senses, he stared at the gigantic figure from afar like an idiot. He was sent flying by that thing earlier. Boom! At this moment, a sky-piercing sound swept out toward Chen Xiao Shui and caused him to return to his senses. He raised his hand, caught the thing that Duan Ling Tian threw at him. A grade 1 life recovery pill. He saw a familiar pill when he opened his palm. Chen Xiao Shui's eyes brightened, and he swallowed the pill without any hesitation. In the next moment, colors returned to his pale face. What a strong medicinal efficacy! Chen Xiao Shui glared at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, the grade 1 life recovery pill you just gave me has more than 90% purity? Although his injuries were not heavy, it still surprised him that he recovered in just a blink of an eye. An ordinary grade 1 life recovery pill would most likely be unable to do that. That was why he asked Duan Ling Tian that question. Not bad. Duan Ling Tian nodded before smiling. But it looks like you have no fate at all with the 2 bottles of grade 1 life recovery pills. Earlier, Duan Ling Tian had given his words that as long as Chen Xiao Shui could smash the puppet, Hammer, into rubble, he would give him a grade 1 spirit sword that could give a boost of 90% and 2 bottles of grade 1 life recovery pills that had more than 90% purity. The moment Chen Xiaoshui heard Duan Ling Tian's words, he was rendered speechless. While he was speechless, he looked at the 3 meters tall gigantic puppet in the distance again. Duan Ling Tian, what's this puppet monster you created? Why is it so powerful? This puppet that was named Hammer by Duan Ling Tian had blocked the full attack from his origin energy and profundity. At that time, he knew that the puppet's strength far surpassed his. As a result, he was sent flying by the puppet, powerless to strike back, before he could even regain his senses. Moreover, the puppet also withheld its strength a little when it was attacking him. Otherwise, he would have died. He could clearly sense all this when the puppet's blow landed on him. Didn't you say you're going to turn it into rubble? Now that your injuries are healed, do you want to give it another go? Duan Ling Tian asked as he looked at Chen Xiaoshui mockingly. Give it a go yourself. Chen Xiaoshui rolled his eyes at Duan Ling Tian in agitation. Earlier, he did not know the puppet's strength, so it was still acceptable. However, why would he look for trouble now that he knew the puppet's strength? Duan Ling Tian shook his head as he chuckled. He lifted his hand and threw a spatial ring to Chen Xiaoshui. For you. What's this? Chen Xiaoshui asked with a puzzled expression on his face after he took the spatial ring. Why don't you take a look and find out for yourself? Duan Ling Tian asked. After Chen Xiaoshui performed the blood ownership claim and saw the items inside, his eyes lit up instantly. A grade 1 spirit sword and 2 bottles of pills. Don't tell me. The moment he thought of this, he immediately took the spirit sword out from the spatial ring. Origin energy surged out of his body and merged with the sword. In just an instant, a dazzling sword ray skyrocketed from it. The heaven and earth energy whirred above the sky and gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. First 4,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared before another 3,600 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. A 90% boost. When Chen Xiaoshui saw the heaven and earth phenomenon above his head, his body began to tremble in excitement. As for the other 2 bottles of pills, Chen Xiaoshui could roughly guess what they were. They were undoubtedly the 2 bottles of grade 1 life recovery pills with more than 90% purity that Duan Ling Tian mentioned earlier. At this moment, Chen Xiaoshui realized the bet that Duan Ling Tian made with him earlier was merely a joke. Duan Ling Tian had long prepared these items for him. The moment Chen Xiaoshui thought of this, he immediately thanked Duan Ling Tian. Thanks, Duan Ling Tian. Since when have you become so polite? Duan Ling Tian shook his head as he chuckled. A mocking smile appeared on his face once again. Now that you've changed your sword, why don't you, train with Hammer a little more? This time, Chen Xiaoshui merely rolled his eyes at Duan Ling Tian. He could not be bothered to reply. He was not a masochist after all. However, he was really curious about this puppet that Duan Ling Tian made from the bottom of his heart. Duan Ling Tian. As far as I know, even a puppet that's mobilized by supreme grade origin stones only has the strength equivalent to a 7th level void transformation stage martial artist at the most. At most, one can only merge concept fragments with it. Chen Xiaoshui asked curiously. But your puppet has strength that has completely surpassed mine. How did you manage to create it? Although he had only used a grade 2 spirit sword earlier, he could still wield the strength of an ancient black dragon and 5,000 ancient horned dragons if he unleashed his full strength. However, the puppet that Duan Ling Tian created was not affected by his strength at all. From this, it could be deduced that the puppet's strength far surpassed his. As for how strong it was, he had no idea at all since the puppet's attack was just too fast that the heaven and earth phenomenon did not even solidify in time. Inscription formation. Duan Ling Tian answered Chen Xiaoshui's question bluntly. It had nothing to do with him whether Chen Xiaoshui understood his words or not. Follow me for a trip. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian looked at Chen Xiaoshui as though he was hit by a pang of realization. Puzzled, Chen Xiaoshui asked, "Where to?" Although Duan Ling Tian did not reply Chen Xiaoshui discovered the answer soon after. This was because Duan Ling Tian had to ask somebody for directions. The place Duan Ling Tian wanted to bring Chen Xiaoshui to was the true martial sect. After a few days' journey, the two of them successfully arrived at the true martial sect's estate. The true martial sect's estate was extremely tranquil. However, upon closer inspection, one would notice a strangeness in the air. Some time ago, A commotion had broken out in the true martial sect after the news of sect leader Wu Lai's death was transmitted back here. Ever since then, sorrow had descended on the place. However, the elders and disciples of true martial sect did not leave even though sect leader Wu Lai was dead. The true martial sect had something that they longed for. Putting everything aside, just the high-grade origin stone vein that the true martial sect controlled was enough to make the elders and disciples of true martial sect stay behind. Standing in the sky above the true martial sect's estate, Duan Ling Tian looked at the estate and announced in a boisterous voice, "I'm Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect." Duan Ling Tian's voice contained origin energy and fell from the sky like a bomb. It swept through the entire true martial sect's estate and took everyone by surprise. The sect leader of Ling Tian's sect? Is that Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect? The one who killed the sect leader? Why is he here? Don't tell me he's here to eradicate the roots as well. An uproar erupted in the entire true martial sect's estate. Most of the elders and disciples of true martial sect were horrified. Only a few remained calm and collected. Apart from Wu Lai, the sect leader of true martial sect, these few people were the strongest in true martial sect. After they heard the voice resonating from the sky, their faces turned glum. In the next instant, they soared up to the sky and headed in the direction where the voice came from. Duan Ling Tian hovered quietly in the air. There was no shock in his eyes at all, even when these few figures appeared before his eyes. Sect leader Duan. The people who appeared in front of Duan Ling Tian were 3 old men over the age of 70. As soon as the 3 of them appeared, they bowed respectfully at Duan Ling Tian. This scene took Chen Xiao Shuai, who was standing next to Duan Ling Tian, by surprise. Were these 3 old men sane? In fact, just over a month ago, Duan Ling Tian had killed their sect leader and an 8th-level martial monarch. However, not only did they not seek revenge from Duan Ling Tian, but they even bowed humbly in front of him. Looks like these 3 old men really don't want to part with the true martial sect's estate. Chen Xiao Shuai easily guessed the reason. If they were willing to part with it, they would have left a long time ago instead of staying on. After all, any normal person should know there was a chance that the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect might pay a visit to the true martial sect after killing their sect leader to eradicate the sect. Duan Ling Tian stared at the 3 old men before his eyes calmly and asked casually, "From today onward, the true martial sect will become an affiliated sect of Ling Tian's sect. Every year, you'll hand over 300 supreme-grade origin stones and 1 million high-grade origin stones to the Ling Tian sect. Do you have any objection?" As for the 3 old men, colors had drained from their faces the moment they heard the first half of Duan Ling Tian's words. 1 million high-grade origin stones were still acceptable, but 300 supreme-grade origin stones were certainly impossible with their power. The origin stone vein the true martial sect controlled was only a high-grade origin stone vein. Even if they dispatched a huge amount of manpower, it would still be difficult for them to dig out 300 supreme-grade origin stones in a year. However, the 3 of them trembled in unison after they heard the murderous intent hiding in the second half of Duan Ling Tian's words. No, the 3 of them shook their heads at the same time. It was as though they feared the purple-clad young man would attack them if they took too long to answer. This purple-clad young man was someone who was able to kill their sect leader, Wu Lai. Wu Lai's strength was on par with theirs. However, this was not the only reason they feared the purple-clad young man standing before them. They heard that over a month ago, when he killed sect leader Wu Lai of the true martial sect, the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect had also killed 4 other men at the 9th-level martial monarch stage. The 4 9th-level martial monarchs were all leaders of first-rate forces that were at the lower middle level. Put aside the fact that they were only powerhouses from a low-level first-rate force, even the top powerhouses of the lower middle-level first-rate forces had all been annihilated. Due to this reason, they could only own up to their own inferiority. In the next instant, the 3 old men bowed and paid their respect to Duan Ling Tian in unison. "Good day, sect leader." Just like that, the true martial sect survived. The price they had to pay was to become an affiliated sect of the Ling Tian sect. Apart from that, they would need to pay a huge number of supreme-grade and high-grade origin stones to the Ling Tian sect every year. After leaving the true martial sect and returning to the Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian looked for Zhang San. "From tomorrow onward, gather all the grade 1 weapons craftsmen and alchemists. After teaching all of you for a while, I'll have to make a journey to somewhere far, Duan Ling Tian told Zhang San. Zhang San responded respectfully, indicating that he understood. The next morning, according to Duan Ling Tian's order, Zhang San gathered all the grade 1 weapons craftsmen and alchemists so that Duan Ling Tian could teach them. The group of weapons craftsmen and alchemists joined the Ling Tian sect for the sake of his name. If he did not give them some sweets, they would most likely leave soon. This was not something Duan Ling Tian wanted to see. Due to this reason, Duan Ling Tian taught them patiently and even refined weapons and medicine in front of them without concealing anything. It all depended on their luck how much they could comprehend. As time passed, the group of grade 1 weapons craftsmen and alchemists who had joined the Ling Tian sect finally understood Duan Ling Tian's attainment in the weapons and medicine refinement Tao. They were filled with heartfelt admiration and were even more determined to stay at the Ling Tian sect. They believed as long as this sect leader remained here and they could receive guidance from him, their attainments in the weapons and medicine refinement Tao would definitely be greatly elevated. When Duan Ling Tian was patiently teaching the group of weapons craftsmen and alchemists, including Zhang San, Yun Gang, the guardian elder of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak, finally arrived at his destination at a faraway land at the southern side of the inner land. It was a deserted stone forest. Usually, very few people would come to this stone forest. Even if they did, they would usually get lost in it. It was said that there were many unpredictable inscription formations that were laid in this stone forest. Very few people who entered the forest made it out alive. Not many people knew this stone forest was the cultivation place of a powerful martial emperor. This stone forest was also known as the Lost Stone Forest. Other than that martial emperor, other people who cultivated in this Lost Stone Forest consisted of some of the martial emperor's disciples and followers. The owner of the Lost Stone Forest was that martial emperor. His honorific title was Martial Emperor Shiqi. Yun Gang stood in close proximity to the Lost Stone Forest. However, he did not dare to go any further. Looking at the stone forest, he announced respectfully, Supreme Elder Yun Gang from the Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak is here to see Lord Yang Chun. Lord Yang Chun. The moment these words left Yun Gang's mouth, a figure appeared out of nowhere from the stone forest. It was an old man clad in gray. You're looking for senior brother Yang Chun? The gray-clad old man asked as he looked at Yun Gang expressionlessly. Yes, Yun Gang quickly replied. He did not dare to slack at all. He knew the gray-clad old man standing in front of him was the Martial Emperor's follower. A Martial Emperor's follower was not that important. In fact, many of the Martial Emperor's followers had never even seen the Martial Emperor whom they willingly submitted to with their own eyes before. Those who had the highest position were no doubt the direct disciples of the Martial Emperor. The Martial Emperor's direct disciples were all genius powerhouses who were personally selected by the Martial Emperor. Each of them had shocking strength, and most of them were at the peak of Martial Monarch stage. Even those who were not at the peak of Martial Monarch stage were outstanding and talented among their peers. The peers in this context referred to people of the same age on Cloud Continent, including variants. The Martial Emperor's direct disciples saw the Martial Emperor frequently to receive guidance from him. After the Martial Emperor's direct disciples, the group below them was not the Martial Emperor's followers. Instead, it was the Martial Emperor's disciples. The Martial Emperor's disciples got to see the Martial Emperor from afar occasionally, but they were not able to receive any guidance or teachings from the Martial Emperor. Moreover, the Martial Emperor might not even know who they were. These Martial Emperor's disciples were managed by the Martial Emperor's direct disciples. If the Martial Emperor's direct disciples were in good mood, then they would teach them a thing or two. Further below the Martial Emperor's disciples were the Martial Emperor's followers who were at the bottom of the hierarchy. To put it in a nice way, they were the Martial Emperor's followers. To put it in an unpleasant way, they were actually the Martial Emperor's gophers. Similar to this gray-clad old man standing before Yun Gang, he was the Martial Emperor's follower and was responsible for guarding the entrance. However, although the Martial Emperor's followers were at the bottom of the hierarchy, outsiders dared not look down on them, let alone taking the initiative to pick a fight with them or kill them. No matter what, the Martial Emperor's followers were still a part of the Martial Emperor's hierarchy, even if he was only a gopher or a guard. Nobody dared to look down on or pick a fight with someone who had a connection with the Martial Emperor. Wait here for a while. I'll inform senior brother Yang Chun. The gray-clad old man did not dare to be negligent after he found out Yun Gang was here to look for Yang Chun. After nodding at Yun Gang, He returned to the stone forest and disappeared before Yun Gang's eyes. Although Yang Chun was not the direct disciple of the Martial Emperor, he was still a disciple. Be it his strength or status, he still ranked higher than him. After that old man left, Yun Gang hovered in the air and waited patiently. At this moment, the stone forest before him was no different from a monster. He did not dare to overstep the boundary at all. In the future, I'll be able to enter this place and become the Martial Emperor's follower as well. Somehow, a smile had crept up on the corner of Yun Gang's mouth. The smile was dazzling, as though he could already see himself becoming the Martial Emperor's follower. Time continued to pass quietly. 30 minutes passed by very quickly, but Yun Gang still waited patiently like before. Whoosh! Suddenly, the faint sound of wind resonated in front and caught Yun Gang's attention. He saw a medium-built figure before him when he lifted his head up. It was a green-clad middle-aged man who had a pair of thick and noble eyebrows. It looked majestic, but at the same time, it was not fierce-looking. He stared fixedly at Yun Gang as soon as he had arrived. Yun Gang. The middle-aged man frowned before he finally eased up. It seemed as though he remembered Yun Gang a little. Lord Yang Chun. Yun Gang did not dare to be negligent, even though the middle-aged was behaving casually. He bowed respectfully at him. I'm Yun Gang, the guardian elder of the former Yin Yang sect Yang Peak. I had the pleasure of meeting with you once before. Lord Yang Chun. Former Yin Yang sect? What does that mean? This middle-aged man was none other than Yang Chun, the disciple under Martial Emperor Shichi's command. After he heard Yun Gang's words, he was puzzled. Lord Yang Chun, the Yin Yang sect no longer exists. Yun Gang sighed. What about Yang Hong? Yang Chun did not seem to care about the existence of Yin Yang sect. He was more concerned about Yang Hong, his younger half-brother. They shared the same father. Under Yang Chun's gaze, Yun Gang took a deep breath before he replied. Peak Master I is dead. Dead. This one word was like a thunderous explosion in Yang Chun's ears. His face instantly turned glum. Since young, both of them did not get along with each other. However, he and Yang Hong were still blood brothers no matter what. It was a fact that could not be changed. However, he just found out that his younger blood brother had died. Who? Yang Chun's asked Yun Gang in a deep voice. Although the question only composed of one word, the meaning implied was very obvious. He wanted to know who killed his brother, Yang Hong. When he found out about Yang Hong's death, the tiny bit of resentment in his heart toward his brother immediately disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by sadness instead. That was his younger brother, who shared the same bloodline with him. It's someone called Duan Ling Tian, Yun Gang replied. Tell me the details. Yang Chun's face was cold as he said in a deep voice. His voice allowed no objection. There was a hint of anger in his voice too. Yun Gang's eyes brightened slightly when he heard this. He knew he had guessed correctly. Although Yang Chun was never on good terms with his younger brother, Yang Hong, he wanted to avenge him instead of settling old scores with him. Yes, Yun Gang replied respectfully and told him the ins and outs of the entire incident without missing anything or concealing anything. He knew there was no use in hiding things from him. With the technique the person before him possessed, he would eventually find out the truth. It would make things worse if he had chosen to hide things. Duan Ling Tian, Yang Chun muttered. His eyes gleamed as though he was about to devour somebody. At the same time, his gaze landed on Yun Gang. You're smart for finding a way to make him stay behind. After I've avenged that useless brother of mine, I'll fulfill one request of yours as long as it's within my scope of power and will not make things difficult for me. Lord Yang Chun, I wish to become Emperor Shi's follower. Yun Gang replied unhurriedly after he took a deep breath. Emperor Shi was the abbreviated name of Martial Emperor Shichi. Martial Emperor Shichi was the owner of this lost stone forest, and Yang Chun was his disciple in name. This is easy, Yang Chun responded faintly. As long as I get to avenge that useless brother of mine, I guarantee you'll be able to become the Martial Emperor's follower. Thank you, Lord Yang Chun. Upon hearing this, a smile crept up on Yun Gang's face. Wait here for a while. I'll go with you to the Ling Tian sect after I've settled some matters. Yang Chun told Yun Gang before he disappeared into the lost stone forest. Soon after, Yang Chun arrived before a stone house in the lost stone forest. That stone house was made by hollowing out a gigantic stone. It looked very unique. Senior Brother Zhou, Yang Chun called out respectfully outside the stone house. Whoosh! When Yang Chun's words left his mouth, a huge figure appeared in front of him. It was a young man dressed in black. With his aloof expression and sharp eyes, he gave off an immense pressure to the people in his surroundings. In the face of this black-clad young man, Yang Chun did not dare to straighten up from his bow at all. Although he was a disciple of the Martial Emperor, he was nothing in front of the others. If he was killed by this person, there would be no consequences at all. Martial Emperor Shi would not even care about it at all. The black-clad young man standing in front of Yang Chun was none other than one of the few direct disciples under Martial Emperor Shi's command. Zhou Yi. What? Zhou Yi's face remained aloof. His voice was calm, and he was extremely taciturn. Senior brother Zhou, I'm afraid I'll have to put aside the matter that you entrusted me for the time being. Yang Chun smiled wryly. Oh, the moment Zhou Yi heard this, a frown appeared on his face. What's wrong? Senior brother Zhou, someone came to the outside of the stone forest earlier. He was my younger brother's follower. The reason he came to find me is to deliver the news that my young brother is killed. Yang Chun sighed. My brother's killer may leave at any given moment, so I need to go there as soon as possible to kill him and avenge my brother. Please agree to my request, Senior brother Zhou. When he reached the end of his sentence, Yang Chun looked at Zhou Yi in anticipation. You must not delay in avenging the death of your brother. Go then. Just leave this matter until you come back. Zhou Yi replied indifferently. After his words left his mouth, he disappeared from Yang Chun's eyes without a trace. His speed was so fast that even someone as strong as Yang Chun could not catch his movement. Thank you, Senior brother Zhou. Yang Chun thanked the stone house in front before he left to meet Yun Gang. The moment he turned around, his face turned grave instantly. Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian. At the same time, a killing intent could be seen in his eyes that were gleaming coldly. Almost 2 months had passed in just a blink of an eye. During this period of time, Duan Ling Tian did not cultivate nor comprehend any profundity. Instead, he focused on teaching the group of Grade 1 weapons craftsmen and alchemists, including Zhang San. In this period of time, the group of Grade 1 weapons craftsmen and alchemists, including Zhang San, had an even better understanding of just how monstrous the sect leader of Ling Tain's sect's weapons and medicine refining techniques were. They were too lacking compared to him. When Duan Ling Tian parted ways with Zhang San and the others, one of the Grade 1 alchemists exclaimed excitedly, "Looks like I made the right choice coming here. Joining the Ling Tian sect will let me achieve the things I want. I have a feeling I'll be able to refine Grade 1 pills with close to 80% purity soon. That's right. This is the best decision we've made in our lives." Somebody added, "Humph, now that you guys obtained some benefits, you better don't forget to do your work for the sect leader. Remember to use all of your connections and search for the secretary leader's 2 misses who are wandering outside." Zhang San reminded them with a growl. "Rest assured, Vice Sect Leader Zhang, I've already given the sect's disciples my token of authentication to look for all the senior officials of the sects that have a close relationship with me. They will not dare to be negligent for my sake." A Grade 1 weapons craftsman chimed in. "I'll also find a disciple and ask him to look for those who are indebted to me on my behalf. If those people don't do their utmost in finding the sect leader's 2 misses, they can forget about getting Grade 1 pills from me in the future." Another Grade 1 alchemist said before he left. More people left in the next moment. Zhang Sen nodded his head in satisfaction when he saw this. He did not let the sect leader down after all. Just some time ago, Duan Ling Tian had made Zhang San the 4th vice sect leader of Ling Tian sect and announced it to the sect. He had the same status as Luo Ping and the Yu brothers. Naturally, they only had the same status on the surface. As someone who led the Grade 1 weapons craftsmen and alchemists in the sect, Zhang San's position in the Ling Tian sect was just below Duan Ling Tian alone. Even Luo Ping and the Yu brothers dared not pick a fight with him at all. After parting ways with Zhang San and the others, Duan Ling Tian returned to his own place and sat cross-legged on the bed. He made up his mind as he muttered to himself, "I'll leave 3 days later to retrieve the great treasure left behind by the Rebirth Martial Emperor during his 2nd reincarnation." After coming to the inner land, he roughly knew where his location was now. After ransacking the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory, he was able to confirm the exact location of the place where the Rebirth Martial Emperor stored his great treasure. It was at the southern part of the inner land. It was quite a long way from the Ling Tian sect. "I'm afraid it'll take me 2 months to reach that place and come back even if I use my full speed," Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Now that Duan Ling Tian had already made up his mind, he no longer thought about other things. He closed his eyes and calmed his heart to cultivate. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, divine dragon form. While cultivating, he comprehended his fused profundity at the same time. Naturally, he also continued to comprehend the sword Tao contained in the word sword that he memorized so that he could raise his sword concept. Time continued to pass by soundlessly. 2 days passed in just a blink of an eye. Duan Ling Tian, show your face. The Ling Tian sect that was originally tranquil was suddenly in an uproar the moment this voice reverberated from the sky. Who is so daring to demand the sect leader to show his face? Many Ling Tian sect's disciples were in shock. Is he looking for death? How dare he comes to our Ling Tian sect to provoke the sect leader? I wonder where this guy who doesn't treasure his own life came from. One by one, the Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples rose up into the sky and looked in the direction of the voice. However, all they saw was fog covering the sky. It was obvious the owner of the voice was hiding behind the fog. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A few figures appeared out of thin air in the sky. The 4 great vice sect leaders of Ling Tian sect, as well as Feng Tian Wu, Chen Xiao Shuai, Xiong Quan, and Gold Thug gathered together due to the loud bellow that came from the sky. This voice seems kind of familiar, Luo Ping said, frowning. Familiar? Chen Xiao Shuai was stunned. Don't tell me you know him. At this moment, the Yu brothers exchanged glances with each other before exclaiming in unison, "It's the voice of Elder Yun." Their voices were filled with astonishment. Elder Yun. Upon hearing the Yu brothers' words, Chen Xiao Shuai was confused. It's Yun Gang, the guardian elder of the former Yang Peak. Luo Ping had a slightly awkward expression on her face. Didn't he run away previously? Why did he come back again? Luo Ping, you better watch your words. I didn't run away. Almost as soon as Luo Ping's words left her mouth, the voice in the sky continued to speak and caught everyone's attention. All they saw was an old man following behind a middle-aged man as they descended. The person who was talking was none other than the old man behind that middle-aged man, Yun Gang, the guardian elder of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak. As for the middle-aged man in front of him, his identity was obvious. It was Yang Chun, the elder blood brother of Yang Hong, the peak master of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak. Apart from that, Yang Chun was also a disciple of a very powerful martial emperor. Although he was not as good as the martial emperor's direct disciples, ordinary 9th-level martial monarchs still could not compare to him. Yun Gang. Luo Ping's face turned grave. Her gaze landed on Yun Gang for a while before it shifted to the middle-aged man in front of Yun Gang. Needless to say, she could see that Yun Gang had come prepared. It was obvious that the middle-aged man standing in front was his backup. He had to be stronger than Yun Gang. At this moment, the Yu brothers' faces turned a little grave as well. They could see that Yun Gang and the middle-aged man in front of him came with bad intentions. It's Elder Yun. Didn't he flee previously? Why is he back now? Isn't he afraid of dying? Didn't you see the middle-aged man he's following from behind? Do you think someone who can make him follow obediently is an ordinary person? Looks like he found some help. Many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples who recognized Yun Gang buried their heads together in discussion. Some of them looked worried. They were worried their sect leader would not be able to defeat the man that Yun Gang brought to the sect. On the contrary, some of them looked indifferent. They had absolute faith in their sect leader. Yun Gang looked at Luo Ping, Yu Ping, and Yuan before he bluntly asked, Luo Ping, Yu Ping Yuan, the reason I came back this time is to kill Duan Ling Tian and rebuild the Yin Yang sect. Will all of you help me? Upon hearing his words, the 3 of them turned even more grave. However, they did not say anything in reply. It seems like all of you doubt my strength. Yun Gang stared at them before he continued unhurriedly. I admit I'm no match for that Duan Ling Tian. However, do any of you know who's standing in front of me? When he reached the end of his sentence, confidence oozed out of his body. For a moment, apart from Luo Ping and the other 2, even Feng Tian Wu, Zhang San, and the others shifted their eyes to the middle-aged man in front of Yun Gang. It was as though they were trying to see what made Yun Gang trust him so much. Your supreme elder Yun Gang of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak. Chen Xiao Shuai looked at Yun Gang contemptuously. Somebody mentioned you before. Several months back, you fled from our Ling Tian sect like a disowned dog, didn't you? Disowned dog. Chen Xiao Shuai's words caused Yun Gang's face to turn grave. I wonder where did this disowned dog's confidence come from? It was apparent Chen Xiao Shuai was not going to stop as he continued to mock him. Although Yun Gang was absolutely infuriated, he still suppressed the flame of wrath in his heart as he warned in a deep voice. Lad, don't be so haughty. You're going to cry later. Then, he ignored Chen Xiao Shuai who was looking at him with disdain and looked at Luo Ping and the other two again before he announced, "This person in front of me is Lord Yang Chun, the elder blood brother of Peak Master Yang Hong." Yang Hong's blood brother? Upon hearing this, the three of their faces sank immediately. Naturally, they were familiar with the name Yang Hong. He was the Peak Master of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak. However, they did not know that Yang Hong had an elder brother, and it was obvious that he was much powerful than Yang Hong. He seemed to be a 9th-level martial monarch. However, even if they had a feeling that this man was a 9th-level martial monarch, there were no hints of terror in their eyes at all. What a joke. Their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian, was someone who had killed several 9th-level martial monarchs previously. Put aside the Grand Elder of Zhou clan in Ataraxia City, and take the 4 leaders of the lower middle-level first-rate forces for example. Even they died by sect leaders' hands. In their opinion, their sect leader of Ling Tian sect, Duan Ling Tian, possessed strength that was on par with the top powerhouses from the first-rate forces at the middle level or even the upper middle level. However, Luo Ping and the other two turned pale instantly when they heard the next part of Yun Gang's sentence. Lord Yang Chun has another identity. He's the Martial Emperor's disciple from the Lost Stone Forest. This was Yun Gang's original words. A Martial Emperor's disciple. The moment these words left Yun Gang's mouth, apart from Luo Ping and the other two, even Zhang San and Gold Thug turned pale as well. As for Feng Tianwu, Chen Xiaoshui, and Xiong Quan, they did not have much knowledge about a Martial Emperor's disciple. Due to this reason, they only looked confused instead of having an exaggerated expression like the others. The backup Elder Yun brought with him is a Martial Emperor's disciple. Moreover, it's the Martial Emperor's disciple from the Lost Stone Forest. I've heard about the Lost Stone Forest before. It's the cultivation place of a Martial Emperor. That Martial Emperor is known as Martial Emperor Shi. The backup Elder Yun brought is Martial Emperor Shi's disciple. Colors drained from the faces of many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples as well. It did not cross their minds that the backup Yun Gang brought here would be a Martial Emperor's disciple. A Martial Emperor's disciple. Although he was not the direct disciple of a Martial Emperor, he was still someone powerful. A weak martial artist would never be able to become a Martial Emperor's disciple. He could only become a Martial Emperor's follower at the most. The Martial Emperor's direct disciples were usually those who were at the peak of the Martial Monarch stage and already have one foot in the Martial Emperor stage. Although the Martial Emperor's disciples were slightly more inferior, ordinary 9th-level martial monarchs still could not compare to them. It was said that all the Martial Emperor's disciples had strength comparable to the top powerhouses of the upper-middle level and even the upper-level first-rate forces on Cloud Continent. A Martial Emperor's disciple. Yang Hong's brother is actually a Martial Emperor's disciple. Luo Ping's face was extremely pale. I've long heard that Peak Master Yang Hong had an impressive background, but I didn't expect his brother to be a disciple of a Martial Emperor. The Yu brothers exchanged glances. Both could see the bewilderment in each other's eyes. A Martial Emperor's disciple was someone they needed to look up to. He could crush them completely with just one finger. For a moment, their hearts were filled with terror. If they had confidence in the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect, Duan Ling Tian, earlier, then right now their confidence was wavering. A Martial Emperor's disciple. A mere Peak Master of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak actually turns out to be the younger blood brother of a Martial Emperor's disciple. Zhang San's face was slightly pale as well. He had already long heard about how Duan Ling Tian killed the Peak Master of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak and became the sect leader of Yin Yang sect after changing its name to Ling Tian sect. However, it did not cross his mind that the Peak Master of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak would actually have such a blood brother. A Martial Emperor's disciple. That was not a joke at all. From what he knew, if one wanted to become a Martial Emperor's disciple, one would either have to be a variant on the Cloud Continent that had remarkable talent and possessed innate abilities, or a powerful 9th-level martial monarch. It was apparent this middle-aged man in front was the latter. The requirement for the latter was extremely high too. It was said that only 9th-level martial monarchs with strength more than 5 ancient black dragons were qualified to become a disciple of the Martial Emperor. The strength of 5 ancient black dragons was the minimum requirement. Right at this moment, Feng Tianwu, Chen Xiaoshui, and Xiong Quan finally learned what the 3 words Martial Emperor's disciple meant from the discussion of the group of Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples nearby. Chen Xiao Shui and Xiong Quan's expression turned horrified as well. Damn it, why is a martial emperor's disciple so strong? Chen Xiao Shui swore in his heart. Although Feng Tianwu's face remained calm, there was a hint of worry in the depth of her beautiful autumn eyes. It was obvious that she was worried for Duan Ling Tian. Luo Ping, Yu Ping Yuan, I'll give the three of you a chance. Stand with me. And after Lord Yang Chun kills Duan Ling Tian, all of you will still belong to my Yin Yang sect. Yun Gang said at a speed that neither fast nor slow as he looked at Luo Ping and the other two. If none of you is willing, I won't let you live after Lord Yang Chun kills Duan Ling Tian. From Yun Gang's words, it was apparent he wanted Luo Ping and the other two to make a decision. This decision was closely related to their lives. The faces of Luo Ping and the other two turned a shade of green before it paled from this change of events. I'll give you a span of 10 breaths to decide. After 10 breaths, you'll be my enemy if you don't come to me. Yun Gang further forced Luo Ping and the other two to make up their minds. The moment these words left Yun Gang's mouth, everybody present on the scene, except Yang Chun, shifted their eyes to Luo Ping and the other two. They were curious about the choices those three would make. Would they stand against Ling Tian's sect by Yun Gang's side, or would they stand against Yun Gang? Any one of the decisions carried its own risk. If they chose the former, one could easily imagine the outcome if Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect, managed to kill Yang Chun, the martial emperor's disciple. Nobody would let someone who betrayed them go. However, if they chose the latter, they would also die if Yang Chun, the martial emperor's disciple, managed to kill Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect. Yun Gang would definitely kill them immediately. In the end, to make a choice right now was akin to making a gamble. A gamble on whether Duan Ling Tian was stronger or Yang Chun was stronger. Duan Ling Tian's strength was no secret to most people in the Ling Tian sect. 3 months ago, when Duan Ling Tian fought against the leaders of the 4 great first-rate forces, the powerful strength he had demonstrated was equivalent to the strength of 4 ancient black dragons and over 9,000 ancient horned dragons. However, as a martial emperor's disciple, Yang Chun's strength was at least equivalent to 5 ancient black dragons, even if he was not the direct disciple of a martial emperor. Yin Gang, if I stand on your side, it means that I'm standing on Yang Hong's side. Due to this reason, I choose to survive or perish together with the Ling Tian sect. Luo Ping was the first person to make up her mind. Yang Hong was already dead, but Yun Gang had brought Yang Chun, the blood brother of Yang Hong. It was similar to standing on Yang Hong's side if she stood together with Yun Gang. She hated Yang Hong from the bottom of her heart. That was why she instantly had an answer. The moment Luo Ping's words left her mouth, many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples' eyes lit up as they praised her under their breaths with words like, "What a superwoman! And she's a warrior. Humph, since you want to die, I'll not stop you." Yun Gang snorted in disdain upon hearing Luo Ping's words. In the next instant, he turned to look at the Yu brothers whose expression continued to change constantly before he warned in a deep voice. "Yu Ping Yuan, both of you must think this through. Right now, you still have a span of 5 breaths. A span of 5 breaths. The moment they heard Yun Gang's words, the Yu brothers' faces turned pale once again. At this moment, the 2 Yu brothers had also become the target of everyone's eyes. What choice do you think the 2 vice sect leaders will make? I don't know. I guess this depends on whether their faith lies more with the sect leader or that martial emperor's disciple. Many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples whispered among each other. They were looking forward to seeing what kind of choice the Yu brothers would make. After a span of 2 breaths passed, Yun Gang opened his mouth to remind them again. 3 breaths left. Colors drained from the Yu brothers' faces even more. Soon after, 2 breaths had gone by again, and Yun Gang announced in a deep voice, "You still have the span of 1 breath left." Whoosh, whoosh. Almost as soon as Yun Gang's words left his mouth, the Yu brothers finally made a move. They flew out one after another and arrived behind Yun Gang a moment later. Ha ha ha. Yun Gang laughed uproariously when he saw the Yu brothers choosing his side. He looked at both of them and said, "Yu Ping, Yuan, you'll realize soon just how right your decision is." In the next instant, he looked at Luo Ping and sneered. "Luo Ping, you'll find out soon just how foolish your decision is." Luo Ping ignored Yun Gang's mocking and looked at the Yu brothers directly before saying in a deep voice, "Yu Ping, Yuan, have you two even given a thought to the sect leader when you made such a decision? If I remember correctly, Both of you seem to possess the spirit weapons and pills the sect leader personally crafted right. Whether it was Yu Ping or Yuan, both of them had a grade 1 spirit weapon that gave a 90% boost that Duan Ling Tian had forged for them. Both of them had also obtained 2 bottles of grade 1 life recovery pills with 91% purity from Duan Ling Tian. Upon hearing Luo Ping's words, the Yu brothers' faces turned a shade paler. However, they remained silent since they knew they were in the wrong. I honestly feel upset on behalf of Duan Ling Tian, and to think that he actually let both of you become the vice sect leaders of Ling Tian's sect, Chen Xiao Shui said scornfully to the Yu brothers and sneered in disdain. A hint of murderous intent targeted at the Yu brothers also appeared in the depth of Feng Tianwu's eyes. The choices they made had infuriated her. Which one of you is Duan Ling Tian? Yang Chun, who was standing by the side watching the scene unfolding before his eyes, finally opened his mouth. The instant he opened his mouth, he immediately asked for Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect. Lord Yang Chun, Duan Ling Tian's not here yet, Yun Gang, who was standing behind him, said respectfully. However, the 3 of them are all Duan Ling Tian's followers. If you kill them, Lord Yang Chun, I'm sure Duan Ling Tian will immediately make his appearance. Yun Gang's gaze shifted toward Feng Tianwu, Xiong Quan, and Gold Thug before he smiled cynically. At this moment, Yang Chun's gaze shifted toward Feng Tianwu and the other 2. Now that Xiong Quan and Gold Thug were being targeted, horror dawned on them instantly. However, they still flew out in unison and stood in front of Feng Tianwu like 2 guards. How loyal of you. Looks like she must be that Duan Ling Tian's woman. Yang Chun snorted. In that case, I'll kill this woman first like crushing a flower. I believe that coward Duan Ling Tian will then show his face immediately. From his tone, it was obvious he was not going to show any mercy at all even after he was faced with Feng Tianwu's beauty. Idiot. Just as Yang Chun was about to attack Feng Tianwu, an indifferent voice resonated throughout the entire place as though it came from everywhere. Its sect leader. Upon hearing that voice, many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples' eyes brightened immediately. They began looking around for their sect leader of Ling Tian sect. Some people even looked at Yang Chun strangely. So what if you're a Martial Emperor's disciple? Our Ling Tian sect leader still called you an idiot anyway. Yang Chun had heard the voice that resonated everywhere, but did not realize what was happening. However, he was instantly infuriated when he noticed the strange looks he was getting. You're Duan Ling Tian? His sharp gaze instantly landed on a purple-clad young man who had appeared without anyone knowing when. His gaze was vicious and filled with killing intent. That purple-clad young man was none other than Duan Ling Tian. Currently, Duan Ling Tian was standing next to Feng Tianwu like her guardian angel. At this moment, Gold Thug and Xiong Quan, who were standing in front of Tianwu, had also retreated sensibly and went to stand behind Duan Ling Tian in a respectful manner. It was as though they were his shadow. Elder Yun. It seemed like Duan Ling Tian did not hear Yang Chun's query at all as his gaze landed on Yun Gang, who was standing behind Yang Chun. That day, the reason you left without bidding anyone goodbye is to find some backup so that you can stage a comeback? Yang Chun, who was ignored by Duan Ling Tian, turned even graver now. His eyes that were filled with murderous intent seemed as though it could shoot out fire now. Duan Ling Tian, Lord Yang Chun is talking to you. How dare you ignore him? You're doomed now. Yun Gang had also noticed Yang Chun's wrath, so he could not help but smirk. However, this time, Duan Ling Tian's gaze swept toward the 2 men beside Yun Gang instead. It was the Yu brothers. After his gaze swept across 2 of them, a piercing gleam flashed across his eyes as though he was about to devour somebody. He had never mistreated these 2 people before. However, today, the 2 of them had betrayed him and betrayed the Ling Tian sect. In the face of Yun Gang's smirk, Duan Ling Tian replied at a speed that was neither hurried nor slow. Well, I'm afraid you won't find out whether I'm doomed or not. At this moment, horror suddenly dawned on Yang Chun's face. With a flash, he disappeared from his spot as though he was trying to run away from something. He did not even have time to warn the 3 people next to him. Bang! Almost as soon as Yang Chun disappeared from his spot, a loud ear-piercing explosion resonated thunderously. Bang! 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 A series of earth-shattering explosion sound entered everyone's ears. Many of those Ling Tian sect's disciples with lower cultivation base were so affected that they were bleeding from all 7 orifices of the head. At the same time, Airwaves that were set off by the explosion transformed into flurries of tyrannical hurricane that swept over the entire area, forcing many of those Ling Tian sect's disciples with lower cultivation base to squint their eyes. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Yun Gang and the Yu brothers who were standing there safely just a moment ago suddenly exploded into 3 blood mist in just a blink of an eye after the loud explosion. Blood mist splattered everywhere like a blooming flame. It was quite beautiful. Silence. The entire scene fell silent. Even Yang Chun, who had dodged to the side, had an extremely grave expression now. His gaze was staring fixedly at the place where the 3 blood mist had exploded. A gigantic figure had just made its appearance. The 3 meters tall gigantic figure entered everyone's sight and took them by surprise. Puppet. I'm not dreaming, right? For a moment, many people exchanged glances with each other as a thought that was more or less the same formed in their minds. Many people even pinched their own thighs brutally. Only when they felt the extreme pain in their thighs that they were certain they were not dreaming. Since when could a puppet possess such powerful strength? Killing an 8th-level martial monarch and 2 7th-level martial monarchs in just a blink of an eye. Chills ran down their spines as they thought about it. Naturally, this was not the only thing that baffled them. After that 3 meters tall gigantic puppet made its appearance, it actually lifted up a hand like a human and put the 3 spatial rings and more than 10 profundity fragments contained in the blood mist away. Then, under the bewildered eyes of the group of people, the puppet threw all of the spatial rings and profundity fragments out. The direction that it threw them was toward the place where Duan Ling Tian was hovering. Swish, swish, swish. 3 spatial rings and more than 10 profundity fragments flew across the sky toward their target, Duan Ling Tian. When they were near him, he casually took them and stored them inside his own spatial ring. Upon seeing this, everyone became speechless. I thought he was going to attack the sect leader with those spatial rings and profundity fragments. I didn't think it was actually passing the spatial rings and profundity fragments to the sect leader. Can somebody tell me what's going on actually? Why would a mere puppet have such powerful strength? This is not logical at all. I've never heard of such a powerful puppet on Cloud Continent before. And the most important thing is this puppet seems to be listening to sect leaders' orders too. I thought a puppet can only be activated by the corresponding inscription formation. Once it's activated, it would act on its own and wouldn't acknowledge its owner. Why does it listen to the sect leader's orders? I heard that, several months ago, the sect leader bid on the mysterious silver at the auction fair organized by the Zhou clan's auction square in Ataraxia City. Mysterious silver? What's that? Mysterious silver is a special material that would make a puppet listen to orders once it's coordinated with the inscription formation and merged into the puppet's body. Ah, I see. As the group of Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples discussed with each other, they no longer found it weird that the puppet listened to their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian's order. However, apart from being shocked at how powerful the puppet was, they were baffled as well. None of them had ever heard of such a powerful puppet before. This puppet is just too powerful. It's so powerful that it gives people goosebumps. I think those 2 vice sect leaders, you did not think they would end up like that, even in their deaths. I think they were already killed by the sect leader's puppet before they even realized what was happening. Many people gasped when the Yu brothers died. Even Luo Ping was taken by surprise and broke out in cold sweat. At this moment, she could not help but feel relieved she stood by Ling Tian's sect's side. Otherwise, she would have ended up like the Yu brothers. They died without even knowing what happened. Hammer is actually this monstrous. Chen Xiao Shui was stunned for a long time before he finally returned to his senses. After he returned to his senses, a lingering fear still could be seen on his face. At this moment, he finally realized when Hammer attacked him previously, it was only using 30% of his strength at the most. Otherwise, he would not have survived. The strength that Hammer demonstrated when it killed the 2 8th-level martial monarchs and the 9th-level martial monarch made him realize this. The sect leader actually has such a monster by his side. Zhang San was staring with his mouth agape. At this moment, apart from the others, even Gold Thug and Xiong Quan, who were by Duan Ling Tian's side, could not help but feel bewildered as well. Both of them exchanged glances with each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. Xiong Quan, how did Master make this puppet? Gold Thug asked Xiong Quan using voice transmission. If you ask me, who should I ask? I only know that Master has created a puppet recently, but it never crossed my mind that it was such a freaky puppet. Xiong Quan replied agitatedly. As he reached the end of his sentence, his face was filled with shock. Although Feng Tianwu's face remained calm as usual, there was a hint of bafflement in the depth of that beautiful autumn eyes too. It was apparent she was shocked by the strength of the puppet Duanling Tian had created. Give the authority of controlling the puppet to me, and I'll consider letting them go when you die. When everyone was still baffled over Duanling Tian's puppet, a cold voice resonated in the air and entered everyone's ears. Horror dawned on many of them. For a moment, the owner of the voice became the center of attention. That owner of the voice was none other than Yang Chun, the disciple of a martial emperor. It was apparent his sentence was targeted at Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian, other than being the older blood brother of Yang Hong, the peak master of the former Yin Yang sect's Yang Peak, he was also some martial emperor's disciple or something. Chun Xiao Shui reminded Duanling Tian as he looked at him at this moment. A martial emperor's disciple? Upon hearing Chun Xiao Shui's words, Duanling Tian raised his brows. After expressing his surprise with an "oh," he began to re-examine the middle-aged man, Yang Chun, in front of him. Duanling Tian's surprise, "oh," filled Yang Chun's face with pride. However, the pride quickly disappeared without a trace and was replaced by glumness in the next moment. It was due to the next sentence that Duanling Tian uttered. As far as I know, martial emperors don't usually know their disciples. These people always like to swagger around and swindle the public using the title Martial Emperor's Disciple. But actually, they're merely the dogs of the Martial Emperor's direct disciples. One must admit that the words Duanling Tian uttered were sharp, and every word accurately sliced through the heart's sore spot. This could be seen from Yang Chun's glum face. If I guess correctly, you must not be a direct disciple of the Martial Emperor, right? Duanling Tian continued to say. It seemed like he did not plan to let Yang Chun go as he continued to ask. If he was not the Martial Emperor's direct disciple, then he must be just an ordinary Martial Emperor's disciple. According to Duanling Tian's words, an ordinary Martial Emperor's disciple was basically a dog that was ordered around by the Martial Emperor's direct disciples as they pleased. As someone whose memory had merged with the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory, Duanling Tian naturally knew the hierarchy among those who followed martial emperors on Cloud Continent. At the top was the direct disciples, followed by the ordinary disciples, and the lowly followers at the bottom. Duanling Tian. Finally, Yang Chun could no longer suppress the wrath in his heart anymore. He bellowed, "Today, not only will I kill you, I'll annihilate your entire Ling Tian sect as well." At this moment, Yang Chun, who was thoroughly enraged, seemed like he was no longer interested in Hammer, the puppet that Duanling Tian controlled. Right now, he just wanted to kill Duanling Tian. How dare this person mock and shame him after discovering his identity? What? Now that I've touched your sore spot, you're infuriated. The laughter on Duanling Tian's face became even more pronounced as he continued to provoke Yang Chun further. It was as though he was fearless even though he knew Yang Chun was a martial emperor's disciple. Duanling Tian's further provocation was like a blasting fuse that fully ignited Yang Chun's flame of fury. His expression turned wretched as he bellowed in rage, "Die!" Boom. With a thunderous explosion, Yang Chun disappeared before almost everyone's eyes. Naturally, he did not really disappear. His speed was just too fast that the others could not catch his body's movement. Although most of the people present could not catch Yang Chun's movement, it did not mean Duanling Tian could not see him. However, Duanling Tian did not react even when Yang Chun was charging at him with a great momentum. He stood in the same place as though he was waiting for Yang Chun's attack. So, Yang Chun sprang like a ferocious tiger. He lunged at Duanling Tian with bared fangs and sharp claws. Xiao, in his hand, a sword chi that was several feet long surged from the 3-foot-long blade. It surged and aimed for Duanling Tian, as if it wanted to split Duanling Tian into two. Boom, 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 boom. While Yang Chun moved, a burst of air explosion reverberated in the air as it also headed for Duanling Tian. When Yang Chun lunged at Duanling Tian with his sword and the several feet-long sword chi, a huge figure stood in front of Duanling Tian when the attack almost landed on him. So, a pair of huge fists punched outward like two cannonballs and collided fiercely with the incoming sword chi. Boom. In just an instant, a tremendously loud explosion was heard. The airflow rippled everywhere from the place where the fists collided with the sword. Wah, wah, wah. Many Ling Tian sect's disciples with lower cultivation base were injured by the loud explosion. They were bleeding from their eyes, nose, and ears. Some even spat out mouthfuls of blood. At the same time, a raging wind spread outward and caused everyone's robes to flutter. Those who were not affected were staring intently at the scene before them. The huge figure that arrived in a timely manner before Duan Ling Tian and protected him by blocking Yang Chun's strike with its fists was the 3 meters tall puppet. When Chun Xiao Shui saw the puppet and Yang Chun were in a deadlock, he broke the silence as he yelled, "Hammer! Well done, Hammer!" So he's called Hammer. That was when everyone present learned the name of Duan Ling Tian's puppet. Hua, hua. Soon, their attention shifted to the void above Hammer and Yang Chun. Two stirring heaven and earth energy were forming the heaven and earth phenomenon. 5 ancient black dragon silhouettes and 1,000 ancient horn dragon silhouettes appeared in the void above Hammer first before 5 ancient black dragon silhouettes and 5,000 ancient horn dragon silhouettes appeared in the void above Yang Chun. Boom. When the heaven and earth phenomenon in the void above Hammer and Yang Chun was formed, another loud explosion sounded. It was the sword chi from the grade 1 spirit sword in Yang Chun's hands. It suddenly surged and pushed against both of Hammer's fists. Hammer was pushed back a few steps, and his body trembled violently because of it. The strength difference of 4,000 ancient horn dragons completely overpowered Hammer. Yang Chun did not exert his full force in the earlier strike. He merely used 5 ancient black dragon strength, and it was blocked by Hammer. He was instantly angered. It was extremely humiliating for him when his attack was blocked by a puppet. He immediately cast a 4th-level monarch stage profundity that he did not use earlier, finally unleashing his full power that was equivalent to the strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 5,000 ancient horn dragons. Due to that, the strength of the sword chi from the grade 1 spirit sword in his hands easily overpowered Hammer's strength and pushed Hammer back. The strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 1,000 ancient horn dragons? Sect leader's puppet is really strong. That's why he's able to instantly kill 3 people above the 7th level martial monarch stage. His strength is comparable to a 9th level martial monarch stage martial artist. In fact, he may be even stronger than most 9th level martial monarch stage martial artists. This Yang Chun can actually mobilize the strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 5,000 ancient horn dragons. Sect leader's puppet is not a match for him. Several months ago, sect leader managed to kill the leaders of the 4 largest first-rate forces by himself. Back then, the strength sect leader displayed was equivalent to the strength of 4 ancient black dragons and 9,000 ancient horn dragons. Only a few months have passed. Even if the sect leader improved, I'm afraid he would only improve by 1,000 or 2,000 ancient horn dragon strength. Does that mean the sect leader's strength is on par with his puppet at most? The group of Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples were whispering among themselves. As they spoke, their faces were panic-stricken as though a crisis had befallen them. At this moment, most of them did not think their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian, was a match for Yang Chun, who was a martial emperor's disciple. According to Yang Chun's words, he was here to annihilate the Ling Tian sect. Once their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian, lost, the Ling Tian sect would also be wiped out. They would also die in Yang Chun's hands and be buried along with the rest of Ling Tian's sect. When they thought of that, a hint of desperation was apparent on the Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples' faces. Many people wanted to leave. Shortly after, when one of the Ling Tian sect's disciples was getting ready to leave quietly, many other Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples decided to leave too. They were acting as though they were avoiding the plague. However, they were stopped by some others who were led by Luo Ping and Zhang San. Surrender your spatial rings, and you may leave. You will no longer be Ling Tian sect's disciples. Luo Ping and Zhang San did not stop those Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples from leaving, but they had to return their spatial rings. In their spatial rings, there were origin stones mined from the Ling Tian sect's estate, grade 1 spirit weapons, and grade 1 pills crafted and refined by the Ling Tian sect's grade 1 weapons craftsmen and grade 1 alchemists. These things were not permitted to leave with them. For a time, many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples hesitated. No matter what, nothing's more important than my life. I don't want the things in this spatial ring. Shortly after, a Ling Tian sect disciple took the lead in surrendering his spatial ring. He muttered to himself before he quickly left Ling Tian Peak and the Ling Tian sect. Many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples followed suit once someone took the lead to leave. It did not take long for a third of Ling Tian's sect's people to leave. Chun Xiao Shuai's face turned purple as he said, "Everyone's really flying off in different directions when disaster strikes." In the distance, Yang Chun stopped pursuing Hammer after he forced it to retreat. He did not stop the Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples from leaving even when he saw it. Currently, all his attention was on the 3 meters tall puppet before his eyes. The puppet's strength was actually equivalent to the strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 1,000 ancient horned dragons. Although it was not as strong as he was, such strength was still shocking on a puppet. If I can bring this puppet back as a gift for Senior Brother Zhou, Senior Brother Zhou will definitely be pleased. Yang Chun thought to himself, feeling moved. Although he was a martial emperor's disciple, just like what Duan Ling Tian said, his master in name, Martial Emperor Shi, might not necessarily remember him. Usually, a martial emperor's disciple was put under the care of a martial emperor's direct disciple. The martial emperor's direct disciple that he followed was the second disciple of martial emperor Shi's 4 direct disciples. He was an extremely strong powerhouse at the peak of the martial monarch stage. Zhou Yi. Rumor said that Zhou Yi's strength was not any weaker than the strongest direct disciple of martial emperor Shi. The ranking of the 4 direct disciples was not based on strength, but their sequence in joining the sect. Zhou Yi was martial emperor Shi's second disciple. He was also the one that martial emperor Shi favored. Yang Chun had always been proud of following Zhou Yi. Yang Chun became excited when he thought about how he had another chance to please Senior Brother Zhou. However, he quickly calmed himself down. He knew it was almost impossible to ask the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect, Duan Ling Tian, to hand the puppet over to him. Although he could not wait to kill Duan Ling Tian and avenge his brother, Yang Hong, he had to temporarily suppress his anger for that extremely rare puppet that could be used to please his senior brother Zhou. Duan Ling Tian, you'll certainly die today for killing my brother, Yang Hong. However, do you really want so many people to die with you? Yang Chun asked in his deep voice as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. As he spoke, he glanced at the others. His eyes sparkled with violence. It incited fear in a lot of them. Those with weaker mental power even trembled from it. Duan Ling Tian looked at Yang Chun calmly, as though Yang Chun's words did not affect him at all. Duan Ling Tian, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the control of the puppet. I'll leave after I kill you and obtain the control of the puppet, Yang Chun continued saying. In his opinion, his target today was Duan Ling Tian. He only wanted to kill Duan Ling Tian. He did not care about the life or death of the others. Although your puppet is strong, you've seen it for yourself. It's no match for me, Yang Chun patiently reminded him. Yang Chun's words sparked some hope in a small number of Ling Tian's sect's elders and disciples. They looked at Duan Ling Tian hopefully, hoping he would do as Yang Chun said. If that was the case, they might be able to escape death this time. However, the next sentence from Duan Ling Tian's mouth caused their faces to change when they realized Duan Ling Tian would never agree to Yang Chun's words. Are you done talking? Duan Ling Tian asked calmly as he glanced at Yang Chun with cold eyes. Are you done talking? Yang Chun's face darkened completely when he heard Duan Ling Tian's casual remark. He threatened, Duan Ling Tian, since you're so stubborn, I kill those from Ling Tian's sect one by one. After all of them die, I'll kill you too. I hope you can still remain calm at that time. You should know your puppet can't stop me. The expression of those who were present changed after Yang Chun finished his sentence. Yang Chun did not wait for Duan Ling Tian to respond. He moved as though he had transformed into a bolt of lightning. He disappeared before almost everyone's eyes as he headed straight for his first target. His first target was none other than Feng Tian Wu, who was standing next to Duan Ling Tian. So, Yang Chun's speed was so fast that even Hammer, who was ordered by Duan Ling Tian to chase after Yang Chun, could not catch up. His cannon-like punch landed on an empty spot. First, I'll kill your woman. Soon, Yang Chun arrived near Feng Tian Wu, and the origin energy of the Grade 1 spirit sword in his hand surged. Several profundities trailed after it like shadows before transforming into a several feet-long sword chi that was headed straight for Feng Tian Wu. Although most of the people present could not see Yang Chun's movement clearly, the sword chi headed for Feng Tian Wu was clearly reflected in their eyes. They also heard Yang Chun's in different words. They knew Yang Chun's first target was the red-clad woman, Feng Tian Wu, standing next to the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect. Everyone had long suspected she was the sect leader's wife. In that split second, most of them felt as though their hearts had stopped. That exquisitely beautiful woman was going to die here today. Along with Yang Chun's strike that had a great momentum, a swift and piercing wind blew at her face and through her beautiful hair, causing her hair to fly in the wind. She looked ethereal as though she was a fairy that had descended on the mortal world. At this moment, Feng Tianwu remained indifferent even though she was facing a life or death situation. It was as though she was unaware of the impending crisis. Naturally, this did not mean she was unafraid of death. Although she had lost her memories, she had found a new motivation to live. It was the man currently standing next to her. It was entirely because of her unconditional trust in that man that she was able to remain so calm. Ms. Tianwu, Gold Thug, and Xiong Quan's faces changed dramatically. Like most of the Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples, they thought Duan Ling Tian's strength was on par with the puppet hammer at most. They did not think Duan Ling Tian was stronger than Yang Chun. Idiot. A calm and nonchalant voice sounded at this moment when the several feet-long sword chi arrived before Feng Tianwu in just a blink of an eye. Boom. Following that, everyone heard a loud explosion. The loud explosion spread out, and the airwaves turned into a flurry of hurricanes that swept over the entire place. The flurry of hurricanes caused most people to close their eyes. When they finally opened their eyes, all of them saw an unforgettable sight. God, what did they see? Without knowing when, a purple figure stood in front of Feng Tianwu with a five-colored light shield around him. It seemed as though he was wrapped in within a translucent cocoon. When Yang Chun's fierce strike landed on the five-colored light shield, it merely trembled for a moment before calm was restored. How's that possible? Yang Chun's face changed dramatically as he stared at the purple-clad young man before him. His eyes were filled with shock and amazement. One had to know that his earlier strike contained his full strength that was equivalent to the strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 5,000 ancient horned dragons. That could be seen from the heaven and earth phenomenon in the void above him. However, his attack was blocked by his opponent's defensive martial skill. Yang Chun was completely stunned. Yang Chun was not the only one. Everyone, apart from Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu, was also stunned. The scene before their eyes was completely beyond their imagination. In the beginning, they thought Yang Chun might have held back when they saw his attack being blocked by their sect leader of Ling Tian's sect, Duan Ling Tian's defensive martial skill. However, when they saw the heaven and earth phenomenon at the void above Yang Chun, they realized that Yang Chun had unleashed his full strength in that attack. Sect leader's defensive martial skill can actually block Yang Chun's strike that contained his full strength? To block Yang Chun's strike that contained his full strength with a defensive martial skill. How strong is sect leader right now? Sect leader's progress is too great, isn't it? Previously, when he battled the leaders of the 4 largest first-rate forces, he only mobilized the strength of 4 ancient black dragons and 9,000 ancient horned dragons. Perhaps the sect leader held back previously. He did not unleash his full strength. That should be it. For leaders of lower middle-level first-rate forces are not qualified for sect leader to use his full strength. The group of Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples recovered from the shock as their eyes brightened. Although they were glad they managed to escape death again, they were shocked by Duan Ling Tian's astonishing strength. At this moment, they felt like they did not know much about their sect leader, Duan Ling Tian. Otherwise, they would not have lost faith in their sect leader. I don't know how strong sect leader is right now. The heaven and earth phenomenon at the void above sect leader is almost formed. For a time, many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples' attention were caught by the stirring heaven and earth energy at the void above Duan Ling Tian. However, they were quickly disappointed because the heaven and earth phenomenon dissipated before it was formed. The 5-colored light shield on Duan Ling Tian disappeared as an extraordinary 3-foot-long blade stopped moving and fell steadily in his hands. It was his quasi-royal grade spirit sword. As for the 5-colored light shield, it was formed by the defensive martial skill, the 9 Dragons Barrier. Earlier, he easily blocked Yang Chun's attack by using this heaven-rank advanced defensive martial skill from the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique with his quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Currently, his strength was way ahead of Yang Chun. In the past few months, he had never once stopped comprehending the sword Dao from the word sword left behind by the sword saint, even though he had slacked off in his cultivation and comprehension of the fused profundity. Due to this reason, his sword profundity improved again. The improvement this time even shocked Duan Ling Tian. He was so shocked that it took him half a day to recover from it. Due to that reason, his strength had far surpassed the strength of 5 ancient black dragons and 5,000 ancient horned dragons. That was why he was not afraid of Yang Chen. As someone who possessed the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory, he could naturally guess the strength of an ordinary disciple under a martial emperor. In fact, he had overestimated Yang Chen. In my eyes, you're no different from your brother, Yang Hong. You're both idiots, Duan Ling Tian said coldly as he stared at Yang Chen with a chilling gaze. Idiot. When he heard Duan Ling Tian calling him an idiot for the third time, Yang Chen's body trembled as his face was filled with shame and anger. However, he suppressed it. Although he did not know how strong Duan Ling Tian was, the scene earlier proved one thing. Duan Ling Tian was way stronger than him. He could not figure out how a lower-level first-rate forces leader was so strong, but he was certain the opponent was stronger than him. With his strength, the other party could kill him in just a blink of an eye. Now what? Didn't you say you're going to kill everyone around me, one by one? Still holding back, Duan Ling Tian glanced at Yang Chen in disdain before he charged at him. It made Yang Chen's face turn green before it turned pale. Duan Ling Tian, don't let it go to your head. There are a lot of people in this world who can deal with you. Yang Chen sneered in frustration. Perhaps there are many people in this world who can deal with me. However, that doesn't include you, Duan Ling Tian mocked. As he spoke, his eyes glinted coldly as though waiting for a chance to swallow him up. Meanwhile, a cold killing intent rose from his body. Run. That was the only thought in Yang Chen's mind when he sensed the killing intent from Duan Ling Tian. He moved and vanished before most people's eyes. Planning to escape? Many people were shocked by Yang Chen's sudden disappearance when a voice sounded. It was the voice of the sect leader of Ling Tian's sect, Duan Ling Tian. Subsequently, they discovered that Duan Ling Tian had also disappeared. Moments later, Duan Ling Tian appeared in the distance. After he appeared, another figure also appeared in front of him. It was Yang Chen. A martial emperor's disciple is trying to escape from sect leader? Many Ling Tian sect's elders and disciples had a funny look on their faces. Don't forget Yang Chen's merely an ordinary disciple under the martial emperor. The martial emperor might not even know him. According to sect leader's words, a martial emperor's disciple like him is just a dog of the martial emperor's direct disciple. Someone else added. Do you think you're capable of escaping from me? Duan Ling Tian stared at Yang Chen with a sneer on the corner of his mouth. Duan Ling Tian, I admit that I'm not as good as you are. However, you should think it through. You'll have to pay a huge price for killing me. Yang Chen threatened with fear in his eyes after he took a deep breath. Pay a price. Duan Ling Tian laughed. Did you think that Martial Emperor Shi will avenge you just because you hold the title Martial Emperor's disciple? I don't think he'll recognize you even if he sees you. Duan Ling Tian ridiculed him. You aren't qualified for Lord Emperor Shi to come personally. Any direct disciple under Lord Emperor Shi can easily kill you. Yang Chen sneered. Meanwhile, his eyes gleamed as a light shot out when he lifted his arm. Oh no. Duan Ling Tian had been observing Yang Chen, and his face changed drastically when he discovered Yang Chen's movement. He wanted to chase after that light, but he quickly discovered the speed of the light was extremely fast when it disappeared before his eyes. There was no way for him to catch up right now. Communication jade slip. Duan Ling Tian turned pale. As someone who had the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory and knowledge on inscriptions, he could tell the communication jade slip Yang Chen sent was created by a Martial Emperor stage inscription master. It was so fast that he could not catch up. I was too careless. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath and looked at Yang Chen again. The cold glint in his eyes could not be any colder.